Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Have you ever paused to consider the immense power embedded in that statement? It sounds like an exaggeration, doesn't it? How can something materialize simply by believing enough? But what if I told you that this very principle is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary? You might even be skeptical now, but by the end of this video, you'll grasp why acting like a winner is the crucial first step to truly becoming one. People spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment to begin. They tell themselves, when I have more money, I'll dress better. When I get promoted, I'll speak with more confidence. When people start to recognize me, then I'll act like a winner. But what Napoleon Hill discovered is precisely the opposite. You only begin to win when you act as if you've already won. It sounds crazy, I know, but it's this very inversion of logic that transforms an ordinary mind into a millionaire's mind. Most people believe they need to see the result first before they can believe, but humanity's greatest achievements were born from belief before proof, from faith before evidence. Hill often said that success isn't a destination, it's a state of mind. When you act like a winner, even without external evidence, you're reprogramming your mind to accept success as part of your identity. Science confirms this. Research from Harvard University has shown that the brain doesn't differentiate between what you intensely imagine and what you actually experience. When an athlete mentally visualizes a perfect workout, the same brain areas that activate during real practice also light up. This means the brain isn't reacting to reality, it's reacting to belief. And if the brain believes, the body responds. Behavior changes, posture changes, energy changes, and the world responds to the new vibration you emit. This is precisely how Napoleon Hill transformed his own life. During one of his most challenging periods, when he was deeply in debt and even discredited by his own family, he faced a choice. He could wait for something to change, or he could start acting as if he were already the man he dreamed of being. He chose the latter path. He began to dress more elegantly, speak with confidence, study diligently, and act as if he were already a trusted advisor to great leaders. He woke up early, organized his day with purpose, and spoke with important people as if he were already part of their circle. A short time later, he received an official invitation to work with President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This was no coincidence. It was the inevitable manifestation of an internal decision. Most people, however, live as though they need invisible permission to become great. They wait to have the right balance in their bank account, the perfect job, the ideal relationship, before finally acting like someone worthy of respect and success. But the secret is the opposite. You start attracting what you desire when you already behave as if it's natural to have it. It's as if the universe looks at your attitude and says, I understand, he's ready. Success doesn't come to those who need it. It comes to those who are prepared. And preparation begins when you behave as if you've already arrived. Now, reflect on your own life. When you face a financial challenge, how do you react? With despair, fear, withdrawal, or with the demeanor of someone who knows they will overcome it and prosper? Because it's precisely this difference in attitude that defines who rises and who sinks. When you move with confidence, even if the money isn't yet in your account, you send a clear message to your subconscious. I am the type of person who finds solutions, not the type of person who gives up. And the subconscious believes. It doesn't judge, it doesn't argue, it simply executes. And what's most fascinating is that science also confirms this. In a famous experiment at Stanford University, people who adopted power poses for just 2 minutes, shoulders back, chin up, steady gaze, experienced a measurable increase in testosterone and a reduction in cortisol, the stress hormone. This means the body literally changes its chemistry when you act like someone who has already won. Attitude precedes results. Napoleon Hill believed that success is a direct reflection of the self-image you hold. If you see yourself as small, the world treats you as small. If you see yourself as great, the world recognizes you as such. This is what he applied every day until reality itself bent to his conviction. He wasn't pretending to be someone he wasn't. He simply decided to awaken what already existed within him, because within every person lies a magnificent version ready to manifest waiting only for one thing: your permission. When you choose to act like a winner, you're not lying to yourself. You're activating the noblest, most authentic and most powerful part of your essence. And it is precisely this state of being that begins to attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right doors. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are begins with how you decide to act today. Napoleon Hill learned one of the most powerful lessons of his entire life during a conversation that would change the course of history. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest and most influential men of that era, looked at him and asked, "Do you know exactly what you want from life?" That simple question completely disarmed him. Hill realized he couldn't answer. He wanted success, yes, but what did that truly mean? How much success? In what area? Within what time frame? In what manner? And it was at that instant that he understood something most people never discover. Success eludes those who lack clarity. It's astounding how the vast majority of people live with such vague goals that their own brains don't know which direction to take. They say, "I want to be happy. I want to be rich. I want a better life." But what exactly is happiness? What does it mean to be rich? How much is sufficient? What kind of better life are you seeking? This lack of definition is what keeps so many people stuck in the same place, living entire years in a cycle of frustration and doubt. The human brain doesn't move towards the abstract. It requires clear coordinates. And Hill understood that clarity is power. After that conversation with Carnegie, he began an exercise that would transform everything. He wrote down with meticulous detail what his ideal life would look like. He described the type of house he would live in, the kind of work he would do, the impact he wished to make, the people who would surround him, and even the precise amount of money he desired to earn. He didn't write like a dreamer. He wrote like someone forging a contract with his own destiny, and that's precisely what began to change the course of his life. Because clarity transforms desire into command. Neuroscience explains why this happens. Our brain possesses a system called the RAS, the reticular activating system. It filters billions of pieces of information per second and chooses what you should pay attention to. When you precisely define what you want, the RAS begins to identify, amidst life's chaos, everything connected to your goal. It's as if the universe gains focus. You start to see opportunities that were always there, but were previously invisible, because your mind didn't know what to look for. Napoleon Hill often used to say that most people fail not because they desire too little, but because their desires are confused. They wake up with one ambition, go to sleep with another, and spend their entire lives oscillating between dreams and doubts. And because the brain is literal, it doesn't act in the face of uncertainty. It's like trying to program a GPS without entering a destination. No matter how powerful the engine, if you don't tell it where to go, it won't move. Hill understood this and began teaching people to define specific, almost palpable goals. And what's most striking is that this clarity not only shifts mental focus, but completely alters behavior. When you know exactly what you want, you start acting differently. Procrastination diminishes, decisions become quicker, and the body seems to respond to a new inner direction. A perfect example illustrating this is that of the athlete Wilma Rudolph. She was born prematurely, contracted polio in childhood, and was told by doctors she would never walk again. But every day she visualized herself not just walking, but running, competing, and winning. She didn't just wish. She defined what she wanted, to be the fastest woman in the world. And that's precisely what happened. She became an Olympic champion, breaking records and proving that mental clarity is more powerful than any diagnosis. He often used to say that a vague desire is like a fog, and fog never led anyone to the mountaintop. What leads to the top is the map, and the map begins when you put down on paper what you truly want. For this reason, Hill proposed a simple yet transformative exercise. Take a sheet of paper and describe with maximum detail what your perfect day would be like if everything were exactly as you desired. Where would you wake up? What would the environment smell like? With whom would you have coffee? How much money would come into your account at the end of the month? What kind of impact would you be making in the world? And here's the secret: write by hand. Modern studies from Princeton University show that the act of writing manually activates parts of the brain linked to emotional memory and deep concentration. When you write what you want, you're not just recording words, you're programming your subconscious mind to act towards it. Hill recommended reading this description every night before sleep for 30 days. He used to say that something almost magical would begin to happen. Opportunities would arise, the right people would appear, decisions would become easier. Not through magic, but because the mind would finally be aligned with a clear purpose. Clarity isn't a spiritual luxury, it's a practical tool for transformation. And the more you define what you want, the more the universe begins to collaborate. Hill stated that the difference between dreaming and achieving is the same difference between wishing and deciding. Dreaming is light, unconstrained, fleeting. Deciding is firm, a commitment, action. When you decide with clarity what you want, you send a direct message to your subconscious. This is it, there is no plan B. And it's this conviction that changes everything. Because while most people wait for motivation, those with clarity have direction, and direction generates movement. When you know where you want to go, the how begins to reveal itself along the way. Napoleon Hill understood this early on, and that's why he asserted that the mind doesn't need hope, it needs purpose. Because hope keeps you dreaming, but purpose makes you get up, act and build. And that is precisely the first step to transform the invisible into reality. There are times in life when everything seems to collapse simultaneously. Money runs out, friends disappear, doors close, and even one's own faith begins to waver. It's at this point that many give up, believing the universe is conspiring against them. But it was precisely during these dark periods that Napoleon Hill discovered the most powerful force a human being can develop: resilience. He learned through his own pain that success isn't the absence of falls, but rather the ability to get back up one more time than the number of times you fall. Once, Hill received 4 consecutive rejection letters from publishers. All of them said the same thing: this type of philosophy has no market. Imagine hearing that when you believe you have something capable of changing people's lives. Anyone could have resigned themselves, could have given up. But not him. Instead of deleting the manuscript, he rewrote it with even more passion, as if millions of people were waiting for those words. And they were. Years later, that very content would become one of the most widely read works in the history of personal development: Think and Grow Rich. It was at that moment he realized that every rejection, every obstacle, every apparent defeat was merely a test to measure the intensity of his desire. Today, science confirms what Hill already knew intuitively. The factor that most determines long-term success isn't intelligence nor talent, but resilience. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that resilient individuals have lower stress levels, a greater capacity for adaptation, and a much higher probability of achieving their goals. Not because their lives are easier, but because they develop the ability to continue even when everything seems lost. They understand that pain doesn't come to destroy them, but to mold them. Resilience is what separates the dreamer from the achiever. Everyone falls, everyone fails, everyone has days when they think about giving up, but few choose to continue. And it is in this silent choice, repeated every day, that greatness is built. Napoleon Hill believed that failure is just life's way of testing if you truly want what you say you want. He used to say that if you stop at the first fall, what you wanted was merely convenience, not a purpose. When you understand this, something changes within you. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" It's a simple shift in perspective, but it changes everything. Failure ceases to be an end and transforms into fuel. Suffering stops being a punishment and becomes training. And the more you grow through pain, the more unshakable you become. There is a fascinating study that reinforces this idea. Psychologists followed people who had experienced significant losses, bankruptcy, separations, illnesses, and discovered that, years later, those who had interpreted their pain as learning exhibited higher levels of happiness and purpose than before the trauma. The conclusion was clear: suffering, when understood, doesn't destroy, it strengthens. Therefore, when everything crumbles, remember what Hill learned. You aren't being punished. You're being prepared. What seems like the end today might just be the necessary process to transform you into the person capable of sustaining the success that will come. And that's the central point. Success doesn't arrive to test your happiness. It arrives to test your structure. Without resilience, you might achieve, but you won't maintain. So if at this moment you feel you've lost something, if you're tired, if the world seems too heavy, just take a deep breath and continue. The silence of persistence is more powerful than the noise of giving up. Every time you choose to move forward, even without applause, even without certainty, you are voting in favor of your own future. Hill believed that the universe rewards those who keep walking even in darkness. Because sooner or later the light reappears, and when it does, you will realize that it was precisely the longest nights that taught you to see better. Napoleon Hill stated that faith is the starting point of all achievement, not religious faith, but mental, emotional faith, the absolute conviction that what you seek is already yours in potential. This is the invisible bridge connecting what you imagine to what you live. And perhaps that's why Hill asserted so firmly that before any result appears in the physical world, it must exist as certainty within you. Everything ever created, from inventions, fortunes, companies, and even personal transformations, began as an idea sustained by someone's unwavering belief. But here's the point few understand. Faith isn't something you have by luck, it's something you train. The brain is a machine that responds to repetition and emotion. When you affirm something with force, emotion, and consistency, you are literally molding new neural connections. And when these connections strengthen, the mind begins to accept that thought as truth. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself according to what you repeatedly think. And this is precisely what Napoleon Hill practiced throughout his life, training his thoughts until they became conviction. He lived through periods of deep disbelief. He was criticized, called a dreamer, deceived by close associates, and almost lost everything. But there was something he never lost: the decision to believe. Hill recounted that in one of his darkest moments, when he saw no way out, a single phrase came to his mind and changed everything. "If I don't believe now, no one will believe for me." From that instant, he decided to live as if success was already guaranteed, even if the world said otherwise. And the curious thing is that shortly thereafter, circumstances began to change. Not because the universe suddenly became more favorable, but because he began to act in accordance with the image he carried within himself. And that's how it works for anyone. The world doesn't believe in those who wait for proof. The world believes in those who transmit certainty. Consider the example of Bill Russell, one of the greatest players in basketball history. Even before being recognized as a champion, he stepped onto the court with the demeanor of someone who had already won. His teammates said his energy was different, almost magnetic. He believed so strongly in his own ability that his body simply followed his mind. And it was this confidence that led him to become a legend. He didn't wait for the title to define him. He defined himself before the title. Napoleon Hill often said that faith is the greatest of all thought catalysts. This means it doesn't just inspire, but multiplies the strength of everything you do. If you act with doubt, every step becomes heavy, every obstacle seems insurmountable. But when you act with faith, the same situations become stepping stones. Because the focus shifts. You stop looking at the problem and start looking at the purpose. And where the focus goes, energy flows. Science confirms this impressively. Studies from the University of California showed that people who cultivate positive and affirmative beliefs about themselves not only make better decisions, but also have higher levels of dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to motivation and action. In other words, believing it's possible literally changes your body's chemistry, putting you into motion. But there's something many confuse. Believing isn't self-deception. Believing is deciding that even without guarantees, you will act as if you already have the result. The difference is that self-deception paralyzes, while faith awakens action. Authentic faith doesn't ignore reality but transcends it. It looks at the facts, acknowledges the difficulties, and still says, "I continue." It's a conscious choice to align your mind with what you wish to manifest. Imagine what your life would be like if, starting today, you decided to believe with all your might that what you want is already in motion. Imagine speaking, walking, and acting with that energy. It's almost impossible for things not to start changing. Because when you change internally, the entire universe reorganizes external circumstances to reflect your new vibration. And suddenly, the right people appear, doors open, and opportunities arise by chance. But it isn't chance, it's correspondence. Therefore, practice the exercise of faith every day. Upon waking, tell yourself 3 truths you want to live. Say them aloud with emotion. Feel the sound vibrating in your chest. For 21 days, repeat without fail. You'll notice subtle changes. Your voice will become firmer, your decisions quicker, your ideas clearer. This isn't mysticism, it's the physics of the mind. Faith is energy, and energy communicates even before words. Napoleon Hill often said that faith is the power that transforms thought into fact. And this is the simplest yet most overlooked truth. What you deeply believe shapes your reality. And when you choose to believe with conviction, success ceases to be a distant possibility and becomes a natural consequence. Because the mind, body, and universe obey the same order, the one that stems from certainty. The true secret to success, according to Napoleon Hill, isn't waiting for perfect circumstances, but acting as if they are already here. When you live with this conviction, with faith, clarity, attitude, and resilience, the world begins to bend to your certainty. Success ceases to be a gamble and becomes a consequence. And if this message resonated with you, then know that your journey is just beginning. The next video appearing on your screen will take you one step higher, further expanding your mind and helping you become 1% better than you are right now. I thank you for walking with me this far, and I'll see you there in the next video.